this brings me to the significance of the passing of these two men. Are you ready? Are you ready? I can't hear you. The passing of these two men at this critical juncture in our nation signifies a shift that perhaps only a few can discern. One of these great men, President Muhammadu Buhari, consistently sought office until the other, Obasikiru Adetono, facilitated his eventual emergence. The question is, what legacy did these destiny partners bequeath before jointly bowing out of the stage? Now that they no longer live here, what was the significance of their intersecting destinies, for which now rests upon us the responsibility to preserve, to consolidate, and to build upon? Lend me your ears for a few minutes as I take you on a brief exegesis of the symbolism of the passing of these two men and the inflection point that now dawns on our nation. As I explained in my earlier, or my autobiography, the last but definitely not the least, the merger that led to the formation of the APC marked the first time there will be a handshake between the progressive wing of the North and the progressive wing of the South. Since the First Republic, there was never a successful progressive handshake between the North and the South. While Chief Obafemi Awolowo represented the progressive colossus of the South, there was no contemporary of his in the North with the same critical mass to build such a progressive coalition. In the First Republic, the collaboration between the Action Group, the National Convention of Nigerian Citizens, AG and NCNC, and the Northern People's Front, NPF, was more of a team-up between southern parties and a fringe northern party. In the Second Republic, though Malam Aminu Kano was the ideological contemporary of Chief Obafemi Awolowo, the Unity Party of Nigeria, UPN, and the People's Redemption Party, PRP, also could not successfully build that national progressive coalition. In the Third Republic, although the Social Democratic Party, SDP, was structured by the military to align a little to the left as alternative to the National Republican Convention, NRC, that was aligned a little to the right, this arrangement failed even though the SDP was progressive. Fast forward to the Fourth Republic. As far as followership is concerned, going by the strength of the loyalty they each commanded, almost to the extent of a cult following, Muhammadu Buhari became the North version of Chief Obafemi Awolowo and the symbol of Northern progressivism. It became the beacon of hope to the Talakawars, the ordinary people. It gave hope to the masses, to the common citizen, to the downtrodden. I saw this firsthand when I campaigned with him across Nigeria, from the poor trader in Kaduna to the struggling farmer in Gusau, from the teeming youth in Kano to the small business owner in Maiduguri. I saw ordinary people willing to spend and be spent for him, ready to lay down their lives for him. To these ordinary citizens, May Gaskia was a symbol of their dreams, the embodiment of their hope, and the beacon of the Nigerian they longed for. To these Nigerians, it was Baba, say Baba, and no one else. They shouted everywhere we went. These Nigerians reminded me of how, years back, we would chase after Chief Obafemi Awolowo, we shout, Awo! 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 As if a messenger of God had visited our land. In their respective ways, Chief Obafemi Awolowo and Muhammadu Buhari each represented the progressive wing of Nigeria's socio-political landscape. For the progressive wing of the Nigerian state to fully emerge, there was a need for a marriage between Chief Awolowo's political legacy and the Buhari political machinery. Had Buhari washed his hands of Nigeria, as he came close to doing after his experience with the 2011 elections, there would have been no APC. Had the Awujale Obasikiru Adetono not accepted the challenge to mediate the talks, perhaps Nigeria would have been a one-party state trying to balance itself on one leg. This is why the passing of these two men on the same day calls every Nigerian, especially the current political class, to deep reflection. President Muhammadu Buhari and Obasikiru Adetono have each played their parts and bowed out of the stage. They have bequeathed to us a nation with its promises, prospects, possibilities, problems, and paradoxes. Now is not the time to blame past leaders for what they did or failed to do. Now is the time to reflect on our nationhood and recommit ourselves to building the Nigeria that these men wished had emerged in their lifetime. Now is the time for Nigerians across the north and south to lock hands in the courts of unity and to build a great nation. The fact that Nigerian leaders across political divides came together in unity to honor the late president is an indication that this is possible. With the passing of these elder statesmen, now is the time to build upon their foundations a Nigeria that works for every Nigerian. I want to come to terms with the 12 million votes that President Buhari always commanded in every election, either to focus on those votes or the values that produce them. This is where the rubber will meet the road. I've had it asked on various fora, who will now inherit President Muhammadu Buhari's 12 million votes? I do not think that's the right question that this moment calls for. The right question to ask is, what were those values that produced the man who consistently attracted those 12 million votes and even more? What were those values that stood the man out and made him a colossus among his peers? What attributes made the man, Buhari, the hero of the poor and the symbol of hope to the downtrodden? Rather than skip the process and jump to the product, these are the questions that must be asked amid the politicking already taking place among the political class, the ruling party and the opposition alike. We must awake to the handwriting on the wall. President Muhammadu Buhari and Obasikiru Adetono left a legacy that reads loud and clear. The giant of Africa cannot stand on one leg. We cannot build Nigeria as a one-party state. The intersection of these two men played a critical role in the emergence of a viral political landscape with a strong enough opposition party to challenge the then ruling party. We can only build on their legacy by ensuring that both the ruling party and the opposition are strong enough to guarantee good governance in the interest of the ordinary Nigerian. Their legacy also reminds us that we cannot stabilize our beloved nation on divisiveness. We cannot build a truly viral nation unless we build an inclusive nation. Where we have been divided as a nation, let us remember the religious tolerance of a man who for years was wrongly labeled with a toga of religious fundamentalism, when indeed, he was one of the most tolerant and fair-minded Muslims to walk this earth, twice opening the doorway for Christian leaders, pastors to be specific, in politics and governance. Where we have played the politics of exclusion, let us remember that President Buhari left us a legacy of an electoral act that opened the doorway for Nigerian youth and persons with disabilities, positioning them to shatter glass ceilings through the Not Too Young to Run Act and the Disability Act. Where we have in the past polarized the political system and undermined political opponents, let us remember the values of a man who would rather present his case to the electorate than descend into the politics of mudslinging. Where we have in the past betrayed one another in the quest for power, let us remember the forthrightness of this man, a man who chose to stay true to his convictions, entering an election with his trusted partner, rather than yielding to the lure of compromise and betrayal. I can attest to this. But then General Muhammadu Buhari insisted on retaining me as his running mate in 2011, even when the odds were stacked against us and I was prepared to step aside. He stood by me because he had given me his word. Men like him are rare in our climb.